Good, lovely morning. Thank you for joining me. We're talking about happiness yet again today because happiness just isn't in the world anymore. With all of the news and all of the political upheaval, happiness is far flung. Today we're talking about why you need happiness and not for when life is easy. You have to practice happiness for when life is hard because who isn't happy when life is easy? Anybody can be happy when life is easy, unless, of course, they haven't wired their mind to be happy, and then they're not happy no matter what's happening, which is sometimes true, especially in the crotchety old men and women. Even when something wonderful happens, they can't be happy. But that's a different recording. That has to do with wiring your mind and polypeptides. Today we're talking about happiness and why you need to practice happiness, because you need to be able to use that tool when life gets hard. I have a great example from my fencing years. I'm a former fencer, and I had an instructor who said, you don't need to practice fencing form when you're rested and when you're fresh and when you're feeling strong. We practice forms for when we're tired, when we've been training all day long and you're exhausted and your mind is toasted. That's when you need the forms. That's when you rely on the foundations of what you learned as a fencer. That's also true in happiness. It's easy to be happy when life is great. But can you be happy when life isn't great? Can you choose to find the things that are possibly good things in your life when everything seems to be going wrong? Here's another example. When I was in massage school, we were all worried about taking our license at the end of school. The truth is, the teachers had designed the exams in such a way that they were difficult enough that when we went to take our license exams, it was easy. So taking an exam, not only is it stressful already, but that stress can prevent you from thinking clearly. So the teachers did a great job of testing us at a much higher level throughout the year so that we would get accustomed to the stress of tests, the information, and the ways in which you need to focus in order to be successful. And so when you live your life in such a way that you challenge it on a regular basis, then when life actually gets rough or difficult, it's easy. And that's what we want to do with happiness. So your happiness should be practiced on a regular basis. Even when life is good, you can still find ways to practice happiness. And that prepares you for when life is really difficult. Because who do you know who maintains their happiness when life is hard? Very few people. I can honestly say my father was one of them. He was an example of happiness no matter what happened. And it was odd and strange, but a great example of how to be. And he didn't practice happiness in an uninformed way or in a gullible way. He understood life was difficult. He saw what was happening around him, and he knew it wasn't easy, but he chose to practice happiness anyway, which means you can practice it too. So when your life is going relatively well, when things are a little easier than not, that's the time to put in your regular happiness practice. Okay, so a quick list of the things that we were doing last week every day. Number 1, writing down 3 things that we're grateful for. Are you still doing that? You may have stopped doing that. You may have forgotten for a couple days. Not to worry, jump right back on board. Get back to writing your 3 things you're grateful for every day, because that is a way proven by research to get your happiness at the forefront of your mind and to keep it there. Okay, number 2 is to meditate for only 2 minutes a day. Now, there are a lot of different articles about meditation and a lot of different ways to meditate. What I would like you to do is take 2 minutes and just focus on your breathing, focusing on your inhale and focusing on your exhale. Set a little timer and breathe. What you'll notice is that your thoughts keep thinking. I like to think of those thoughts as our dog thoughts. Eastern cultures call it monkey mind. I call it dog thoughts because if you've ever watched a dog out on a walk, sniffing the trail, sniffing the grass, you'll notice they'll sniff in one direction and then boom, they sniff in a different direction and then they sniff in another direction and they're all over the place, chasing their nose. That's what our mind does. It might sniff something here, it might sniff something there, it'll think this, it'll think that. It's all over the place and it will jump you in, around, up, and down constantly. So, if you take 2 minutes to focus on your breath and allow your thoughts to just come and go as they will, because they will, you can't help yourself. Just bring yourself back to focusing on your thoughts. When you find you're carried away by something, perhaps it's something you forgot to do, perhaps it's a list that you need, an item you need to add to your grocery list, whatever it is, you can actually keep a piece of paper and a pencil by you while you're meditating. So if something like that comes up, you can just scratch it down real quick and then get right back to your focusing on your breathing, because that's what will help improve your ability to maintain happiness when life is difficult. Okay, so what are the benefits? Why would we meditate? So one reason is to quiet that little voice. So the things that make us think thoughts here, there, and everywhere also tend to have a voice attached to them. And the voice will judge you, the voice will give you their opinion. The voice is that thing inside us that attributes good or attributes bad to situations. The benefit of meditating is it quiets that voice, because the truth is nothing in life really is good nor is it bad until you place that label on it. And once you've placed that label on it, then you've judged it and you've put the quality of good or bad on it. So if you can quiet that voice and be a little more neutral so that you're noticing things as they arise, but not attributing a good or a bad to them, that is very beneficial and will spike your happiness and keep it up for quite a while. Okay, number 2, when you focus on your breath, you're focusing on something tangible. So our mind can pick up things and run with them that may not be based in reality. Focusing on your breath gives your mind something to do so that you can begin to recognize the patterns of your dog mind and your dog thinking so that you can bring it back around, put a collar and a leash on that, and keep it under control. You get to control what happens in your mind and in your thoughts. Okay, number 3, that is learning to live in the now. How many of us drag our past into the present moment? That's what we do. That's what humans do. That's what often contributes to people's sense of themselves, their personality, who they are, how they're being in the world. So physical problems tend to define people. Past experiences also define us, like being heartbroken, having been married and divorced, all of those things. Even our families and the members of our family and the situations around families, those tend to define us and who we are. You've noticed this when you go back home. Don't people treat you in the ways that they used to treat you based on what they used to know about you? And if you've tried to change, you know it's very difficult because you get yourself back into a situation where they expect you to behave in one way, and so they treat you in that way, expecting to elicit a particular behavior. So, learning to live in the now is one of the great benefits of happiness, because when you think about it, there is always something to be happy about. Even if life is terrible, even if you're struggling and you don't see any way out or through or to the other side of, there is always something you can find in your life to be happy about. You just have to look for it. And if you follow these 3 steps, you will find the happiness, and you will be able to maintain happiness even in the worst of times, because that's personal resilience, and that's a good thing. Remember, until next time, think head wise, feel heart wise, and move your body wise.